the end credit scene has left us with a promise for future Sonic films. So basically, how do you guys feel about what we are to expect for the future of Sonic, and how do you guys think that this movie went generally?
I feel very optimistically curious. I feel like they left us with sort of this exploration of opening doors to Sonic's world because they've teased it a lot. They teased a lot of things in this movie. They teased
Mm-hmm.
in how Eggman is going to come in, how Tails, spoiler I guess, is going to be part of this universe, and how Sonic is as a character. So I feel like we're going to finally see the world that he was developed and maybe get some answers, like what happened to his protector, stuff like that. The Echidna tribe. Maybe we might see Knuckles. So
I hope so.
yeah.
I hope. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I thought that it was fun. It was a fun time. It was great seeing Jim Carrey and all that stuff. I think that for the future, I definitely hope that they can introduce more of the Sonic lore and behind the scene and like the deeper stuff. I'm glad that we're getting Tails. I really want to get Knuckles in there because I've always loved Knuckles.
Mhm.
So if I get those two, I'm happy. But yeah, what do you think, Crystal?
I'm really into the idea of this Sonic movie and a Sonic movie sequel. I especially like when filmmakers, distributors can take a property that maybe hasn't had the best content and then reboot it, as opposed to getting something that's super popular and has lots
Yeah.
of rich storytelling and lots of
Mhm.
rich media already built into it, because then it gets risky building upon that. Whereas if you take like a movie or a game that, and we like all agree that Sonic hasn't had like a good game in a while.
Mm.
Well,
And
the last game was actually not that bad.
you liked it? Okay.
Sonic
Well,
Mania.
I just still think that they're in like a really cool position where they can build the movie universe out. And I think that's going to inspire better game making
Mhm.
in the Sonic game franchise. So, like,
Mhm.
I support that, and I support a Sonic sequel.
Yeah, I definitely, going back to the lore, I definitely do. The one thing I kind of was a little bit annoyed with the movie was I didn't feel like they played much with the lore. I get why, because, I guess marketing perspective, because I feel like most people's relation to Sonic is more like they probably played a game and they like his design. Not many people really are that
Hmm.
depth with the Sonic lore and whatnot. So, but I really do wish that they play more with, like, they explore the Chaos Emeralds, because the Chaos Emeralds is a
Oh.
big thing with Sonic,
Right.
making him turn Super Sonic.
Yeah, it was definitely introductory. They took the most. Well, Sonic himself is the most familiar out of all these people, and
Yeah.
they took the most iconic villain, and then they just played them off of each other instead of going too deep with the lore.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there was stuff for the fans. I mean, if you look up online all the blogs that say like every Easter egg there is,
Yeah.
there's more than you think.
Yeah,
They
they're
play
they're
like little tunes from the
yeah, I knew
game.
that.
And then there was, again, at the end, the after credit with Tails,
Yeah.
which was for the fans. And that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that shows at least that they're open to expanding on that world.
Yeah, definitely curiosity. Another thing I want is creativity, because, like, I mean, the movie again, it was enjoyable, but a lot of it was just a bunch of cliche tropes that was kind of just like, I mean, I liked it because seeing Sonic do it, but at the same time, it's like, come on, I feel like they can be more creative with it. I just
Mm.
They can. I think there was a lot of innovation in this film to begin with, because these types of films where it's half CG, half human real actors,
yeah,
half the time they don't work.
that's
It's
true.
awkward, or
That's
it's
true.
just, I mean, look at Doolittle. That
Yeah,
bombed. Or
yeah,
like Cats, which is like half CG, half real people.
yeah.
Mhm.
Or people that are half CG and real. But I mean, the fact that they pulled it off shows that, there was a good, enjoyable story, and that the effects were good,
Mm-hmm.
and that we weren't ever kind of like let down by anything ever. And like, I think that's hard to pull off, especially with, kind of the bad press that they had in the beginning with the
That's true.
terrible design. So
That
I
is true.
props to them for just
That's true.
pulling it off, not just pulling it off, but like actually making it a huge success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I think that the way that they were able to thankfully change the design made it so that the whole CGI and human mix, it worked, because the cartoonish element of the movie that we saw would have clashed with the whole hyper realistic Sonic that they were trying to do at first.
Yeah.
And so I think that the end product that we got is much better than what we would have had if they stuck to the original.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a huge outcry, I think, on Twitter. And then they even addressed it on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you look at like the Sonic Twitter account, the very first thing is a tweet from the director saying, "We've heard your, concerns, and we're happy to change the design and come back." And then they debuted it, and there was there's like a lot of content like of people thinking like, "Oh, it's a conspiracy. The bad design was like fake, and they had the real design."
Yeah,
that's not true. Like they actually thought that the hyper real design was like a good idea, and it wasn't. He had like creepy human teeth, and he was like had a svelte human body covered in fur. Like that was gross. But then like I think a lot of people our age, like millennials and Gen Z, they are very forward and out there with their thoughts on media and stuff, and it like on every movie there are haters and there are like people that praise it, and a lot of times like they're just like talking to a wall. But Paramount kind of took it and they actually listened to the fans, and that was like wholly unique, and the fact that they were able to listen to the fans and to the outcry.
Right. And that's an interesting thing, because it's not always like, it doesn't always pay off to listen to the fans sometimes. But in this situation, it was definitely a good idea to listen to the fans. Because I'm sure they ended up making more money as a result. And they probably made back whatever they lost having to redesign Sonic for that movie.
Oh yeah, projections were something like 50 million, and they got like 70 million domestically.
And then like I think the people they lost their jobs as well. Like the Visual X people who worked on it also lost their jobs as well. So they really made
the power of social media.
It's not
double-edged sword.
I don't know how that works at that level, but I'm sure I would imagine that they're not the ones in charge of the design of Sonic. I would imagine that's a director's choice.
That's true, but I guess it's like the money they put in was like it forces them to like, it was like basically it got like shut down because they had to make a big sacrifice. So it's like, I guess it's like the budget was very low, so they went over their budget, and that's probably the reason.
But yeah, this could also change kind of the course of filmmaking. And like you said, it's not always good to just listen to the fans, throughout. But I think it's kind of good to lend an ear to loyal fans. But you're right. This was a change that was like a very fundamental change where it's like, it's his design, like make it true to the character. And it didn't have to do anything with like the story or anything. So it was like not an easy change to make per se, but just a very obvious one to make, and like, a very positive one to make.
I think moving forward, like we've seen now the design for Tails, which looks true to form. I think that people generally wouldn't have a problem with that design. I am interested to see the design for Knuckles, because the echidna type creatures that we saw, they didn't really look too much like Knuckles to me.
Although they do
resemble
their
full face mask though.
That's true.
They were.
I kind of feel like they do kind of resemble from another Sonic game that had like echidna tribes as well, and they weren't like as red as Knuckles, but it had a light skin thing. I think it was Sonic Adventure 1. So they do resemble that a little bit.
Hopefully it looks good in whatever product we get, because I don't want it to just be Sonic and Tails. I want it to be Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Also, just my hopes, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I also want Shadow in there.
We'll see. That's a lot, OC.
I don't think we.
I just want something, even if he's in the end credit for the sequel. I just want something with Shadow, because when Shadow shows up, I will get hyped. Okay,
we'll see what happens. I mean, at this point, like, because of how great Jim Carrey was, we're definitely still gonna have Eggman in the sequel. So that's like, how many bad guys can we have? Or like, what
Shadow's
could the
more
plot
of an anti-hero though.
Well, that's the other way that I was thinking, like, like maybe Sonic will unite with some of the anti-heroes and then against a greater evil, which would be like Jim Carrey again.
Yeah, I mean, here's kind of like another thing.
Or wait, what about Jim Carrey with Sonic against a greater evil?
That's possible. I mean,
That would be dope.
they do that in the 3D Sonic games. That's usually how the final battle is. It's like Eggman releases this demonic thing, and then
because
Sonic works
they
with him
could be
together.
better as friends than enemies because
Yeah.
they're both kind of manic and they're both
Yeah.
high energy.
Yeah, but I definitely am curious to see his relationship with Tails because the way the Sonic storyline was that he didn't really have any friends. So I'm almost curious to see, will they just be buddy in the beginning, or there would be tension? Because I would love kind of this whole thing where Sonic's looking at Tails like, oh my God, this guy's disgusting while he's trying to be with human friends, and then together they work together. And I like that perfect because, like, for example, Metal Sonic's another iconic thing in the Sonic universe. And it'd be interesting where Tails tries to be friends with Sonic, but he couldn't be friends with him. And then Dr. Robotnik sees that, and then maybe Tails and Robotnik make a robotic Sonic, and then eventually become friends and later on or whatever.
Oh.
Like, I could definitely see that being a thing. So I don't know. I'd be curious.
I
to
like
see.
that too. I like the enemies to friends storyline. I like antagonistic relationships that turn out to be like more friend than bad.
Yeah, I like that. But for sure, if they do have Knuckles, they have to play with the Knuckles being gullible from Eggman, because that's another big one. Because the only reason why Knuckles even hates Sonic is because he thinks that, if I remember correctly, he thinks that Sonic takes the Master Emerald, but he never. So.
Oh, so they end up being like enemies, but falsely.
Yeah, falsely. And then he realizes at the end that.
Do you think that they're ever going to introduce the Chaos Emeralds, or?
I think they will. They have
to.
to if they're going in the.
I was
new
surprised they
Sonic's
didn't
world.
in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have to, because that's a big one. And Super Sonic can't exist without Chaos Emeralds.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I think that they're definitely excited. I'm sure that for sure we're gonna get a sequel based on the success of this Sonic film.
Is there anything that you guys think they could do without?
For the sequel?
Yeah.
We can be less on the
Like,
human world. That's
Low key,
Well-
they could change the human. I don't think they need James Marsden for the next one. As much as I loved him, like
I think that
he's
was a good thing
essential.
though about this movie is that it really wasn't too heavily focused on the humans.
That's true.
It was primarily focused on Sonic, which was a good choice.
Yeah, that's the unique part of the movie.
Like it wasn't like with the Transformers movie where it focuses mostly on Shia LaBeouf
Exactly.
instead of Optimus Prime. And
Yeah.
Which is
Bumblebee.
great because then if like they can do less directing of like human actors and just do
Yeah.
like I think a Sonic movie like even more focused on Sonic could stand on its own.
Yeah.
This is hard. Part of me I would want that, but part of me still feels like they're gonna. I mean, I don't know. Would people just want to watch it where it's just Jim Carrey and then he's in this anime universe with Sonic? Because even when I was talking about the movie with some people, they were like, "Oh, is there more human characters?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "See, they work better when there's more." And he's not really like a Sonic fan, but he's a movie goer.
That's fair.
So I feel
It's
like
more, it makes it more widely.
I still think I would
marketable.
prefer
yeah, he
if
just
they-
feels more comfortable watching
Yeah.
it.
I would prefer if they had like another actor or actress though that's like kind of more relevant to the Sonic storyline. But
Yeah.
you would know more about that than I do, I
Yeah,
think.
see, the hard thing about that is like the other human characters. No, yeah, okay. All the other human characters I can think of, they're either dead or the fan base would not want them to be there. That's just being real. I'm just gonna keep it real.
It's like Mario.
Sort of, yeah.
No,
like
what
that.
if they bring Jaleel White and have him play some human character that they make up?
But see, the
They
only
could-
reason why GOI would be that'd be interesting.
No, he doesn't have to,
because
like-
he was the original voice of Sonic.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, but then at the same time, I don't know.
He could just be like a new character, and like the fans know, but to everyone else, this is like just another character to
I don't
connect
know.
to.
It's tough. It's tough. And then I think the relationship with Sonic and as much as we don't want him back, the human character, I feel like that relationship is still like the whole point was that was his first friend.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe if there's a third movie, I could see not having that human character, but I feel like for the second film, he has to be there just for
Well,
the connection base.
I think there should definitely be human characters besides Jim Carrey.
yeah.
But I think like maybe like I'm just saying James Marsden. It doesn't have to be James Marsden.
Yeah.
I don't think he was great, but I don't think he was like to me a highlight of the film.
Yeah,
or
I agree.
anything.
I agree.
For me, it was Sonic and it was
Mhm.
Eggman.
Definitely.
Is there anything else you think like maybe you could do without or doesn't need in the sequel?
Trying to think. I just think, yeah, less humans, more Sonic's world. more clever jokes. I mean, the jokes were all right, but the fart joke kind of made me cringe. Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully they have more, like, even with Sonic's power. Like, I hope okay, that's another thing. I hope we see more Sonic doing more action stuff.
Yeah, did he roll up into a little ball in
He
this
did.
one?
He
Okay.
did. He
Yeah.
did. He did.
I
He did
barely
that.
remember
He did that twice.
We need more of that.
Yeah, we need more action scenes
More
for sure.
Sonic rolling up into a fast little ball.
Because like it was cool seeing him do his speed, but again, it reminded me a lot of Quicksilver, and I was like, we need more. Like, I just want something more like it stands out on its own,
Like unique
for sure in the new movie.
unique to Sonic.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think generally less flossing would be good. But I don't know if that's gonna happen because while we enjoyed this movie, it is definitely marketed towards children.
that's fair enough.
So
Is it? It's marketed towards families. There's an ad for Olive Garden.
That's true. That's another thing. They need to be clever with their ads.
Yeah.
If Sonic goes back to the human,
I think that was very smart because who goes out to these things is like middle income families. And where do they like to eat? Olive Garden. Because when you're there, your family.
Yeah, I mean, but like with that in mind, it's not like they're not going into risque they're not likely to go into risque territory because of the fact that this is a movie that is, yeah, it's for families, but I feel like it's definitely more for children, younger generation. The amount of immediate cultural references that they had with the whole like the dance moves and all of that stuff kind of made it so that you know what kind of movie this is like meant for, even though they still had the jokes in there for the adults. Like the breastfeeding joke was brilliant.
That was really brilliant.
that was awesome.
That was like completely ad-libbed, I'm sure.
I'm sure that
was.
Jim Carrey's humor was
It bled through. It was
it
great.
did
Yeah,
it did it was it
worked.
made that movie work for both a child audience and then also an adult audience.
Yeah, the
Definitely.
nostalgia.
Definitely.
And so he'll have to be in there and keep doing his thing.
You'll have
But
to be in it.
I think that generally we're still gonna have that element as far as what kind of character Sonic is.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's not going to be like a super experimental like Sonic universe.
Yeah.
It's still at the end of the day has to be a kids movie because that's where the money is.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's accessible to all the kids and their parents.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think but gamers are very happy with
Yeah.
it already.
Yeah.
I've seen so many like fans of the movie already chewing out like anyone that criticizes
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
So
That's
that's
a Sonic
just
fan base for you.
I mean, I think it still kind of circles back to just Paramount in the beginning, listening to the feedback and then just
Mhm.
changing the character design. Something as small as that can make them happy because you're right. There were Easter eggs, but it wasn't like super like
Yeah.
Mhm.
deep dive into Sonic lore.
Yeah, definitely.
But maybe the sequel could give us a little bit more of a deep dive, hopefully. Right.
Yeah.
Here's to hoping.